Something odd is going on with America's labor market.
Our economies are going haywire.
So there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the economy right now.
The economy is sputtering in bizarre ways.
I think the market is flummoxed.
The American economy is doing some weird shit right now, but some of what seems scary might be kind of awesome. Here's why. Whenever the poop really hits the fan, and Lord knows it recently has, I say to myself, time to head down to my ketchup bunker. Or, that's what I've started saying, now that I know I need one.
Diners are dipping back into restaurants, but the ketchup can't catch up. Ba-dum-bum. Supply chain problems, seriously, are reaching into the condiment universe. Many restaurants are now facing a nationwide ketchup shortage.
That's right. This spring, Americans had to brave through a deficit of what I call Sriracha's boring cousin. Just as you'd expect in the ketchup apocalypse, the black market kicked into high gear. Grifters on eBay asked for as much as $4 whole for a single packet. And that might seem wild, but when you look around, it's not just ketchup.
A shortage of lumber is adding about $36,000 to the cost of building a typical single-family home.
Our national forests are poised to help with the lumber shortage.
Do the national forests know where lumber comes from? Anyway, there's a lot more that we have less of now.
Coming up, sticker shock. The sky-high prices for used cars.
Used car prices, ouch, they hit a record high in April.
That shortage of used cars, that's thanks to a shortage of new cars, which is being driven by a global shortage of semiconductors, which has also meant a shortage of video game consoles and graphics cards, which are in demand not only with gamers, but crypto miners, leading to scenes like this outside the Micro Center in Dallas that just got some fresh graphics cards in stock. Yikes. There's also the same bad news for steel, and even chlorine, which really sucks for all the swimming pools people got during lockdown.
One pool industry insider calls it poolmageddon.
Poolmageddon. So far, we haven't seen desperate suburbanites elbowing each other out of the way for that last box of chlorine tablets. But summer is young. Now, don't freak out. All this bad news is wrapped up in a good news bun. These seemingly random shortages and price hikes are all essentially symptoms of a buzzing economy. The economy is, weirdly, snapping back faster than it usually does after a big shock. Because this was a different kind of shock. For one thing, the banks survived this time and they're lending away. And the government threw way more money at this recession than they ever had before, including the financial crisis a decade ago. As a result, the US is on track for the fastest annual economic growth since 1984. The recovery has been moving so fast, it's throwing a lot of stuff into chaos, including the job market.
There are 250,000 jobs available in the state of Tennessee, and we have no one who wants to work.
Applebee's offering free appetizers to anyone who comes in for an interview.
All these companies are roaring back, but they can't find workers. It's so weird. Or is it? I mean, I thought capitalism had a special way of dealing with, like, a situation when people won't agree to do something for a certain price. If I could just remember what that was.
One ice cream shop in Pittsburgh couldn't fill open positions, so guess what they did? Raise their starting wage from $7.25 to $15 an hour.
Ah, yes. That's right. Companies could pay workers more goddamn money. And in a lot of cases, like that ice cream parlor, they're doing it. Some workers have organized against their bosses and scored higher wages. And guess what? Places that have caught on to the idea that offering more money makes their jobs more attractive are finding workers just fine. Now, of course, politicians on the right and some economists argue that the problem isn't companies paying people too little. It's the government paying them too much.
We have folks that want to get back to work. The businesses want to be open, but the federal government, with the additional unemployment checks that are coming out and stimulus payments, there are many folks that simply just won't go back to work.
The bigger problem is, nobody wants to work because, the Biden's recent stimulus package pays people more to stay home. This is a major problem for our industry. We need to inspire people to get back to work. That's the biggest problem that we're having.
You'll remember that Congress pushed through what Democrats called unemployment on steroids, adding $300 a week to what people were already getting from their state. On top of that, the government handed out 3 rounds of checks to almost everybody. The extra federal jobless benefits, including that $300 a week, were set to expire on Labor Day. But GOP politicians say this worker shortage is such a red-hot crisis, they can't wait all summer. And their solution is to slash those benefits early, in an attempt to force workers out of their comfy social safety hammocks and back out into the mean streets of the real world. And that's exactly what's happening in at least 25 states led by Republican governors.
We were incenting people to stay home instead of getting back to work, and in the process removing the satisfaction that comes from working hard and being self-sufficient.
Now, there are some problems to this approach. First of all, it assumes amped up unemployment checks are the key reason people don't want to take new jobs. And there's good evidence that's just not the case. Take it from the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, which found the bigger checks are only playing a moderate role in people's reluctance to get back to work. Second, money isn't everything, and there are other factors that go into deciding whether or not to take a job, like childcare. A lot of businesses open before schools, and some places don't have affordable or enough childcare options. According to the Federal Reserve, more than 20% of workers said they haven't gone back to work full-time because of childcare issues. Then there's the big one, the pandemic. Still not over. Hundreds of people died every day this spring. Surveys show a lot of people aren't going back to work because they're still afraid of getting sick, which is valid. If I hadn't been able to turn my couch into my office, who knows where I'd be. Now, some states aren't simply cutting benefits. They're offering one-off bonuses instead. Montana is paying anyone who was previously unemployed $1,200 if they get a job and hold it down for 4 weeks. But this whole debate invites a bigger question. Are tight labor markets really such a huge, freak-out, unacceptable problem in the first place? Workers competing for jobs, that's just economics. But companies competing for employees by offering healthcare, time off, sick pay, and retirement benefits, that is somehow an unacceptable and savage Thunderdome.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Maybe it's not so simple as just saying the economy needs more low-wage workers, the way we need more, say, ketchup packets or PlayStations to make Thursday night great again. Plenty of economists say American workers are long overdue for a raise, considering that real wages peaked way back in 1970. The federal minimum wage has been stuck at $7.25 an hour since 2009. According to one study, if it had kept pace with worker productivity, it would now be $24. In that sense, maybe it's not so terrible that, after a year of layoffs, wrenching pandemic displacement, and head-throbbing stress, people are out there saying no to jobs that they think suck, while looking for jobs that don't. And wages are rising. Maybe it's not so unacceptable that companies are facing a moment when they have to compete to offer workers better pay, and more benefits. Maybe that's just not so weird. Maybe that's kind of cool.